He was kind of motivated not by crypto and decentralization kind of ethos, but he was motivated by probably like he was power hungry, but also interestingly, you can have like a dozen different motivations at the same time, but one of them apparently was this earn to give, which we can now call like rug pull to give, because it's like it's not effective altruism.
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk, a weekly podcast covering deep conversations on technology, philosophy, complex science, and cryptocurrency. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO, a grant manager at Slovak Aid Agency, and a long-term friend. In this episode, we are going to discuss the rug pull by FTX, SBF, and Effective Altruism. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Hi, Jakub. How are you doing?
Hi, Duke. Hi, thanks. I'm fine here in Bratislava. It's like 8 degrees. It's quite cold. How are you? In Voi, probably, or somewhere in Kenya?
I'm doing well. Also in Voi, it has been raining today since in the morning. So at least there's a climate change, or there's a weather change in our side, since there's a lot of topics on COP27 or climate change. So at least we are seeing some difference here in Voi.
Yeah, but the rain is blessing, you know. I remember sometimes there are some areas around Voi where they didn't see the rain for some months or something when I was there, you know. It's like everybody's happy when it's raining, right?
Yeah, yes, everybody is happy, you know. Okay. So let's start. Let's start with the FTX and SBF pandemic. I mean, it took less than a week for FTX to go from the third largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world to bankruptcy court. Can you give a quick rundown to our viewers on what FTX and what happened?
Right. So, like the name Sam Bankman-Fried, like it kind of crossed my attention. Actually, only this year I listened to this podcast called All In Podcast. It's like there are some venture capitalists. They're really actually smart and funny, and they talked about this guy. That he's living in Bahamas, but he's running some ballot initiative in California focused on pandemic prevention, but it was something. It has something to do with raising taxes on actually Californians, and there was this guy David Sachs who wasn't happy with like someone from Bahamas trying to influence politics in California where he doesn't live. But okay, so the guy Sam Bankman-Fried is an American, but he got in touch with some actually quite mysterious co-founder, I think called Gary Wang. Nobody actually seen this guy, and also he worked with another person like who was then later at FTX and Alameda Research. Just let me get this straight.
Alameda
Research.
Okay.
Yeah.
The lady with 28 years old, I think, Caroline.
Yeah. They're all kind of like younger, like okay, maybe they're your age.
Yeah, of
like
course.
10 years younger than me. Alameda Research, sorry. Yeah. So there is like this kind of Chinese or something co-founder. They met in Canada, and then there is also this like lady, Caroline, who became CEO of Alameda Research, and they actually this SBF and this Caroline, they know each other from trading days at Jane Street, so they're like quite smart, like mathematicians and like quant traders. And they established this FTX, and previously they established, first this Alameda Research, like a hedge fund, and later on Sam Bankman-Fried established like this FTX, and now it's like the third, or it was until recently like quite a big exchange. So we can call it like centralized exchange for crypto. And it got into trouble because of a CoinDesk article, like explaining that Alameda Research is actually over leveraged. And it kind of followed the pattern of like Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, and some other like this Luna and Terra kind of debacles. And yeah, it was like this year wasn't easy for crypto, and we are amid like crypto winter. And like when the tide is down, you see who is naked and who is wearing a swimsuit and who is not. So, but it kind of that was like the story. Like, okay, probably they were over leveraged and they did some bad bets, but then this week, or like last week, kind of progressively towards maybe like on Thursday or something like that, it was apparent, or it kind of that they actually kind of it seems like they stole clients' money and they used it for trading at Alameda Research. So like these two companies, like a hedge fund and decentralized crypto exchange, they should be like separated, like they are co-owned by this guy SBF, but there shouldn't be any if you are running an exchange, you should have reserves to cover the deposit and of your clients, so you shouldn't play with your clients' money without them knowing it. So there was like, okay, there are some technicalities how they did it, but like what seems to have happened is like at some point of time, this Alameda Research, like this hedge fund, became insolvent because of these other guys they were involved in, like these other companies that went under, like over this year, like Three Arrows Capital, and they actually tried to buy, or they were in process of acquiring some of these companies, like Voyager. And what happened was that probably they also became insolvent, but like this guy SBF, he used this crypto exchange of his to as a piggy bank or something to cover the losses at Alameda. That's one story. Another one is it could be that the fraud went even deeper and longer. Yeah, and then there is like this mainstream media, or downstream media, as Balaji calls them, narrative that actually that tries to kind of whitewash these issues, and they portrayed this SBF as a kind of saint who tries to save the world through effective altruism, and now they are kind of the narrative in downstream media is something akin that the guy is just like he made some bad bets and he was over leveraged, and they don't mention the fraud and the stealing of customers' money or something like that. So that's like, okay, that's like the overview, but I'm sure I missed like a ton of things, but you can the listeners and viewers can also check other podcasts. I can also mention like two or a couple of that I listened to, like just to compare, like for example, Bankless podcast. They took it really hard, and they were really emotional about it, because it's like it can take crypto several years behind, or like all the progress, and also in price, but also in perception and regulation and like kind of goodwill can be erased a couple of years. And then there is a quite opposite kind of view from Justin Murphy, and he has this podcast Other Life. They are like strong on Urbit and network age, they call it, not like network states, but as well, and they just see this as an opportunity both for Urbit and for decentralization and DeFi, because what broke the episode that they they got at Other Life. It's called Bad Sex, but with like C, not S, so CEX. So it's like centralized exchange,
Exchange.
so it's funny. Yeah, you can listen like these two, for example, episodes to contrast. And then there is some guy who is like some kind of famous short seller, and he was warning about this SBF guy since May actually, and he got interested in FTX, and he saw this is a scam or something since early 2022 and started tweeting about it since May. So, and he also appeared at some podcast, so I can maybe check like what his name is. His name is Mark Cohodes. Cohodes, yeah.
Okay.
Hedge Eye podcast. So yeah, maybe later we can include this as well in the footnotes. Okay, sorry for speaking to okay, go.
No, actually, so I just wanted to come in and ask you, like, so what do you think? Why do you think SBF is not yet prosecuted despite billions of dollars were stolen from crypto investors? I mean, why is SBF so protected?
Okay, I mean it takes time, So yeah, I mean, yeah, people. But of course, but the narrative in downstream media is important because they like give they are like down the politicians and regulators are downstream from media, meaning like the regulators or politicians cannot fire a corporate journalist from, let's say, New York Times, but if New York Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal all kind of start writing negative articles, let's say about some politician or some regulator, then the guy or the girl might get fired eventually, for bringing the reputation of that agency into disgrace. And so okay, these narratives are important, so of course they give him. There was a recent article, like very recent, like after all these revelations came to light in New York Times, which was still kind of like not mentioning anything, like no scam, no stealing, no, not such a word, no such a words there. The only thing was still kind of there, try to lionize him as some kind of savior who just made some mistakes here and there, and something that they just said like, okay, but he's getting good sleep and he's playing video games or something like that. So but okay, but it takes time. But it's kind of weird that the bankruptcy proceedings are done in the U.S. and not in Bahamas. So that's like interesting. And of course, I mean, people like compare him to Madoff. Before it was like, or some people ask like, is this the Lehman Brothers moment, like in the great or the global financial crisis? And it looks like this is more like Enron, like accounting fraud and like just like really kind of criminal behavior there.
But I'm seeing like there's somewhere I was reading that somehow he was sponsoring some of the Democrats and
Yeah. He was like the biggest second donor to Joe Biden and Democrats, like in the election. So yeah, he was sponsoring a lot of people, and yeah, and there's this other guy like this CZ, this like Chinese diaspora founder of Binance, who kind
finance.
of took him down actually. And it was interesting because this guy SBF, he tried to lobby for regulation, but actually what he wanted to do was kind of it became apparent like a couple of weeks ago or something that he actually, what he tries to do is like he kind of tries to get the monopoly or oligopoly or something for decentralized exchanges and close the door behind him, so to kind of regulate the DeFi and like make it hard for all the DeFi folks, and like and so he can get these like monopoly profits. So it's he was kind of motivated not by crypto and decentralization kind of ethos, but he was motivated by probably like he was power hungry, but also interestingly, you can have like a dozen different motivations at the same time, but one of them apparently was this earn to give. which we can now call like rug pull to give, because it's like it's not effective altruism. You know, he earned to give to like support these effective altruism causes, like which are let's say decreasing AI risk, you know, like the AGI, artificial general intelligence risk, or pandemics risk, or biotech, bioweapon risk. Also they focus on like global health issues, let's say malaria nets programs and these kind of things. I mean, I'm quite familiar with effective altruism for a long time, almost like 10 years, and I went to some meetings. I actually donated also to some causes, just my small 2 cents or small money. Mainly Give Directly, which is like a program of yeah, it was like a monthly donor of like maybe $25 or something, not much, but it was like a direct cash transfers to actually Kenya, Uganda, and some other countries. But what you are saying is actually correct, that if he did something like this, you know, like let's say on board lots of Africans, let's say from rural areas, and then just donate them crypto or give them directly some like airdrop or something, then I would be like almost kind of thinking like this guy is something like Robin Hood, like modern Robin Hood or a hero. I mean, I don't know. I think I still wouldn't think this is legit, and it's not right. I mean, you shouldn't steal to give, or you shouldn't rug pull to give. But it would be interesting, at least. It would be like, you know, because if you want to have some tragedy, I mean, some drama or something, you always want to have a person like where there are like many conflicting narratives, like is this guy a good guy, is like one like 1/3 good and 2/3 bad or something like that. And probably now it's not that now it's not that easy to find out, because like what he was doing, okay, it was like effective altruism probably, but what he was like donating to, he was like donating to the most prestigious, let's say, some initiatives, okay, AI, I mean EA, like effective altruism initiatives, but in Oxford. Or he was donating to Joe Biden. You know, it's not that I don't know if it's effective altruism, but in his like the guy is smart, and he was actually donating to some media like ProPublica, and so, but if you want to maximize your power, then actually it's quite effective. But as we discussed before, like this idea of optimalism by Balaji as opposed to maximalism, I think his problem, as I said, also like I tweeted about it, his problem was that he wanted to maximize, and the key not to optimize, but like I think maximize his influence or power in like all these three areas of social, meaning like NYT, social media, being like a cult image, like the next Steve Jobs, like this Elizabeth Holmes kind of lady who also may end up in prison or being prosecuted. But she also kind of tried to build this like Steve Jobs image or something, and media helped him. So like social media and social something, so social technology plus downstream media. Then he wanted to, I guess, also influence AI, meaning at least this artificial general intelligence area of research, and like of course crypto, or Web3, because he ran this like hedge fund Alameda Research and this FTX centralized exchange. But I mean, just to conclude, is that but the key thing is like his mistakes were, I guess, it was centralized, not decentralized. So it's like he was like playing this centralized hierarchy game, like how to get to the top as quick as possible, how to get influence regulators, how to donate to politicians, how to run a centralized exchange, and he was actually got into argument and was kind of rude also to the CZ, what brought him down, I guess. So this guy from Binance, and so that's one thing. Another, I think, mistake was that he he used leverage and liquor, not maybe not liquor, but some stimulants, as I read, and leverage and liquor. It's like the two things that are not good for investing, as Warren Buffett says. So that's like another mistake he made. And being a maximalist in this like power hungry guy, it's another mistake yet. So yeah.
So people are comparing him to JP Morgan of the new century, where like he might bail out some of the crypto exchange at some point, because at some point I think he was bailing out some of the crypto exchanges which were falling down by giving them some cash at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But then this guy, this short seller, Mark Cohodes, if I spell it right, he said like, okay, but that's kind of stupid, because if you want to buy something cheaply, you would wait for it to go bankrupt or something, not buy it before, but before they go bankrupt or something. But then okay, the another view is that he was like backstopping the whole industry, so he was seen as a hero because everybody, you don't want to, you want to see some positive signals in this like crypto winter.
Yeah.
But right, if they lionize him as the next JP Morgan or the next Steve Jobs, like the Balaji also tweeted that media, the downstream media now, like they're like the counter signal, or like the signal that if they are too strong on someone, probably that guy is a fraud. It's like if they are too positive about someone and lionizing someone from technology, where when usually they're against Elon Musk, who is like the real hero. Okay, he might have. Okay, he might be very specific, and his sense of humor and whatever. Maybe not everybody likes him, whatever. But he's like the real hero. He's like the building rockets and self-driving cars and EVs and trying to get us to Mars. So like, okay, but they hate him, they hate Elon, but they are lionizing these kind of guys. So it's usually always something fishy about it. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thanks for that good explanation about the SBF and XTF. I mean, the pandemic. So let's shift gear a little bit to effective altruism. So effective altruism, in a slogan, aims to do the most good, but also utilitarianism, in a slogan, says we should act to produce the greatest good for the greatest number. Would you consider yourself more of an effective altruist or utilitarian?
Okay, maybe in the past I did. Currently, I mean, it's an interesting movement, which I guess the stock price of the movement went down a lot. I am still like in touch with a couple of friends and a couple of guys. I get some emails, but I don't have kind of capacity to attend some events. And I don't know. I mean, I went to some like even like weekend retreats, at least two, with effective altruists, but kind of I felt a bit strange. I mean, they're quite on a spectrum. Probably I'm as well. Like a bit autistic. Usually they're like really good at math and abstract thinking, but actually and many of them are utilitarians, which is like in philosophy also called consequentialism, and which kind of then leads to the saying that the ends justify the means. And now you can see how it looks like in the case of FTX and SBF. So for me, you can balance, you can have something like a society of mind, or like not a parliament in your head, or something parliament in your mind, like where you can be like one part utilitarian, one part virtue ethics, and one part deontological ethics. There are like three kind of things which are actually complementary if on some higher level, but like not to get too abstract. I'm kind of currently, I think, mostly opposed to like individual utilitarianism. It's something like a kind of Anglo-Saxon thing, you know, like Scandinavian and like Anglo-Saxon. Like there is a big distinction in the world between atomism and communitarianism. And so okay, is the individual the primary, or is the community the primary? And actually the Southern European countries, even Slovakia, even France, even Kenya, and we are kind of communitarianism, you know, like the family, or the broader family and the tribe or something are quite important actually for us, and we don't see the individual as a primary, you know, as atomistic. But in Scandinavia and in the US, in the UK, and let's say Northern Germany, so these kind of Anglo-Saxon and Protestants and kind of they view it a bit differently. So that's like one kind of influence, I guess, which individual utilitarianism is it leads to this kind of trolley. It's kind of too abstract and kind of too individualistic, not actually a happy situation as well, and it kind of simplistic, and it leads to this kind of trolley problems, which is like you know, you have like a trolley and there are like five people laying on the tracks, you know, of a train tracks, and there you can pull the lever, or how you call it, and there is one guy on the other like track, you know, and you can, and now you have to decide, will you pull it just to avoid killing five guys, and instead you will just kill one guy, you know. That's like this utilitarian calculus. Sorry. But it's kind of it leads to these kind of things like the end justifies the means. That's one problem. Another problem is this maximalism, as we discussed. Like Balaji talks about optimalism. If you want to maximize something, some utility ad absurdum, you end up in some strange place. And also there is something called Pascal mugging, where, for example, if you say like there will be this evil AGI, like artificial general intelligence that will, I don't know, might kill the whole humanity in like, let's say, in 1,000 years, or and then all these people who would not live, you know, you can calculate like billions of people, like 100 billions of people, you know, in the future. And now this can this can be like, okay, it's a very small risk, but loads of people, you know, and if you calculate it like very small probability of this AGI or some another so-called X risk, like existential risk or catastrophic risk. But if you calculate the very small probability of this risk happening with a big payoff, then you can say like even moving the needle, let's say like moving it 0.0001%, like decreasing the probability, you might save, let's say, thousands or millions of people in the future. And so now everything you do now, it's like very super important. But then it can also justify basically rug pulling or stealing funds to in order to give. So it's like stealing to give or rug pulling to give instead of earning to give. But some people might be actually even opposed to like this earning to give idea. It's like kind of like just trying to maximize your income to donate to some charities. But actually, there is a lot of logic and a lot of good things about this effective altruism. Like, but if you could take like one or two ideas, so maybe I can shortly just talk about like maybe two ideas that are very important. And one is, let's say, okay, shall I do it?
Okay, so maybe yeah. So maybe well, how do you prioritize concerns or determine what's worth caring about? I think most people will understand the general ambition of reducing suffering or doing the most good for the most people, but ultimately we have to fall back on some kind of value hierarchy, right?
Okay, right. I mean, yeah. Yeah, this is like this value ethics, or like, okay, there are some competing values, like, let's say, and I agree, like, basically this question is referring to effective altruists being too abstract and too global in their outlook. Like, let's say they want to save as many people, but they don't care about this, or I mean, they proclaim that they care about everyone the same, because if you are suffering in Kenya or in Bratislava or in Brussels or in Boston, it should be you are experiencing the same pain, which is true, but Taleb would say, okay, Taleb would call this like this universalism, this abstract universalism of Kant, that he doesn't like, actually, because he's opposed to it in his fractal localism ideology, and he gives a good metaphor for it. If you are a true abstract universalist or true globalist or something, then you should you should drive your kids to, let's say, a kindergarten. And when you come back, if you take just total random kid, not your own, but just some random kid from the kindergarten, it shouldn't matter to you. You are a universalist. It should be everybody is equal. It's just like, you drive your own kid somewhere, let's say to school, and you pick up another kid. And you should be fine with it. It's like, if you are really like abstract universalist. But of course, this is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you care about your family, about your tribe, about your about your memetic tribe in the noosphere, let's say.
Kin. I think it's type of altruism. I don't know. There's kin, and then there's which is focusing more on family.
Yeah, I mean, it's biological as well, so you care more about your brother than your cousin, and let's say more about your cousin than your second cousin, and your second cousin more than a stranger. And it's also connected to this idea of asabiya, which is like, if there is some external threat, let's say your uncle tries to rob you of your inheritance or something, so suddenly you are very close to your brother, or yeah, and you try to work together to fight this external threat. But let's say if there is some attacker in the village, then you suddenly also become close to your uncle, because now there is another external threat. So yeah, I mean, it's biological, but it's also kind of a mechanism for actually protection as well. But of course, it shouldn't be absolutely, like, you can create your own new kin, like, let's say, we are almost like brothers, okay. Okay, but we know each other for more than 10 years, and so, or around 10 years, and basically because we discuss here and there, like almost on a weekly basis, so we are friends, so we are not really like random, but but it's like, it's normal, it's human.
Yeah.
You are not like just a number in some Excel spreadsheet. So yeah,
it's true. So should the long-term preservation of humanity necessarily be a goal of effective altruism? Because I don't think the preservation of humanity is an inherently bad thing, although it would likely be at the expense of every other species. But I could imagine an extinction scenario that I wouldn't be upset about. As technology progresses, people generally get richer and happier. A combination of rising GDP, more urbanized style of living, better access to, say, birth control, and a mechanized workforce causes the birth rate to drop, and humanity comfortably, quietly declines. So is this outcome acceptable from an effective altruism perspective? If not, why?
okay. Yeah, I mean, this is quite complicated question, so I'm not sure if I will be able to reply in full. But it's okay, maybe just to go back. Okay, this is like this. There is this individual utilitarianism, and then there is this idea actually from ancient Chinese Mohism, which is called like collective utilitarianism or state consequentialism. Yeah, if it's called Mohism, so it's like an ancient philosophy, which is actually I guess more suitable than this version of AI utilitarianism or individualistic or individual utilitarianism. And because utilitarian, it's just too abstract, and you need to really have other ethics like virtue ethics. Sorry to get maybe too abstract, but with you, when you do this kind of calculations, you end up with like really some kind of weird kind of ideas. Let's say 100 people who are very happy instead of like 1,000 people who are mildly depressed. Like, what is better, and like how many people should leave, or sorry, you left. So, but it's like this kind of discussions, like it's too kind of abstract and too like global. I think it's yeah, I mean, as if there are many people, the more the merrier, so the more people, the more happiness you get. But then let's say if you say like there is some scenario like that there is some AI totalitarianism, let's say some long nights scenario, John Robb calls it, like there is some totalitarian government, let's say run by CCP, and control, and it exports their technology globally, and now everybody is like in this lockdown, like digital lockdown, and you can't even leave your home if you are a dissident or something. And then the question is like, is it actually good for people, and is it good that so many people are alive? Wouldn't it be better if there are less people? But I guess this is not a good way how to think. I think it's just like too mathematical, two kind of Excel spreadsheet like. I think what is better, it's like yeah, it's very complex, but I think as Elon Musk actually, he says like there are not enough people, which is kind of strange, but it's like, okay, you need a lot of people to actually have some really specialist and some to find loads of talented people, because let's say you get 1 million people, but maybe there is only one Elon Musk out of that million. Like super talented guys. So maybe if you get like more people, you get also these more super talented. It goes to this Pareto versus Gauss distribution, or this like black swan kind of Pareto like events. So this is back to Talib, for example. But if you want to find like as many as possible, like some super talented people, maybe you want to have as many people as possible, because these super talented people are very rare and scarce. So you need to have a lot of people to find some talented ones. There is a counter argument that if there is a lot of automation, you don't need so many talent. I mean, you don't need so many people. You can have smaller population sizes if there is a lot of robotics and automation. And then I think how to reconcile these like two opposite views, and the environmentalist view and the climate change and something. It's kind of like you should use technology to improve biodiversity. So like there is this one company, I don't know how successful they are now, it's just a startup, and they are like piloting some drones that can actually shoot these like seeds. They have some kind of pods, and they shoot seeds, and they plant trees by using drones, and they can do it like 60 times more effectively than humans. And this is just like one example of a whole category. And if you build technology to improve biodiversity and climate, and let's say you have, let's say, nuclear power that takes CO2 from the atmosphere and creates actually starch to feed people, that's possible. It's like there are some Chinese scientists building it. as of now. And you can have lots of these technologies like that. And if you have this like, or the precision fermentation, plant-based meat, and this cultured meat, clean meat, or how they call it, yeah, I think you can have more people. So it's kind of, you can have both. Both are many arguments at the same time could be true, you know. So yeah.
Well, that's insightful. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for humanity in a general sense? Because today's biggest threat may be AI, tomorrow's maybe the nuclear, etc. So, well, according to me, the biggest challenge for humanity is to bring out the best in itself. I mean, if we cannot inspire the public to be their best, we will not be able to get politicians or corporations and governments to act in humanity's best interest. So what do you think is the biggest challenge for humanity?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think when the AI focused too much on AGI, I mean the EA, sorry, the effective altruism, when they focus too much on artificial general intelligence, like that's like their top priority, they kind of lost me, because I think that's kind of far in the future. It's not yet. I mean, there are lots of arguments about it, but like, let's say you would need actually Web3 like economies with AI agents to actually maybe make progress in. That's like the Balaji's argument that you actually, it's not about individual AI agents, but like you need like the whole economies and societies of interactive AI agents who are interacting. And so, and then let's say it's like if they can simulate humans, like if they can work as humans like remotely, but you don't know if it's a human or if it's an AI, and they can collaborate together and create like economies, then actually this is maybe the way how to boot up something like a general artificial intelligence, or artificial general intelligence. Okay, for me this is not the biggest threat. Nuclear and these kind of like catastrophic weapons, yeah, that's quite interesting, because actually we are very close to this, something like, it's like because of this Russian invasion in Ukraine, and the media, like, okay, so catastrophic weapons and their outcome of exponential technologies, and exponential technologies are great because we need to get humanity to Mars and to eradicate I mean some diseases and to end poverty and hunger and stuff. So exponential technologies are great, but also they pose some risks. So yeah, okay, but maybe to yeah, humanity as a like to the biggest challenge is to get the humanity to their full potential. I agree. It's kind of connected to these like meta crisis, or some people call it polycrisis or perma crisis. You know, like it seems like all these crises are connected. You know, like if it's nuclear weapons or some other catastrophic weapons like bioweapons, and we kind of, you know, I mean, it's, if we did this podcast like 3 years ago, it would be like very kind of abstract, but now you see like how COVID-19 increased, let's say, some hate crimes, and polarization on Twitter actually is very, then makes nuclear exchange more likely, because people are kind of being maximalists, like Twitter maximalists, trying to get as many likes as possible, and so they are kind of doing crazy shit on Twitter, just like proposing crazy shit, feeling like they're yeah, like they're immortal or something. Okay, then you have like this decentralization of biotechnology, which can produce a lot of bioweapons. But okay, we've seen it with COVID-19, and one theory is like it leaked through a lab in Wuhan, which is quite plausible. It's not certain, but it's very plausible. It was it was censored for a long time, but it's quite plausible. And so this is like this gain of function research, which is quite dangerous. it's just one example of like how things can go wrong, you know. Like, for example, actually, okay, maybe just to finish on something interesting, like AI, I mean, it's good for actually prioritizing these kind of topics, like what is the biggest priority, and they have this framework which is called like what is the most important, solvable, or they call it tractable, and neglected. So if you have these three, like most important, solvable, and neglected, and actually you can kind of calculate it very quickly. And you can think about these three dimensions and come up with something where nobody's discussing yet, and but you think it's kind of solvable. Like if you invest, if you double the solvable means like if you double the funding, can you solve half of the problem? That will be like really super solvable, you know.
Yeah.
And let's say what is the biggest problem? Let's say you take some disease like and that kills the most people. Some people would say longevity is very important because the death, you know, it's like everybody's dying, but if you can increase the lifespan and the health span, that's like the most important thing, you know, to increase the healthy lifespan of people. But okay, let's say smallpox, you know, this is the example that Mecca Askill, the guy from like the co-founder of Effective Altruism movement, discusses, and the eradication of smallpox in the 70s until the 80s. It was like the most effective thing probably done. One of the most effective, maybe also the Green Revolution, the agricultural revolution was great. But the smallpox eradication saved probably something like 100 million lives since the 1980. Something like that, something between 60 and 120 million. It's very easy because easily counted, kind of, because there were like 4 million people were dying a year, something like that, from smallpox, and they eradicated like it was like big project. The Soviet Union and the Americans, everybody, the whole world was collaborating for like 10 years. And I think it was as great maybe as getting to the moon, you know. And it was it saved like 100 million people, which seems, I don't know, is you know, the COVID killed maybe 7 or something up to 10 million COVID killed. But imagine like saving like 10 times as many people just like with one project, which is saved loads of money as well. But there could be, so longevity, probably I would say like longevity is the biggest issue and opportunity. Maybe not even directly, but because indirectly it can, if you shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon, or I don't know how you call it. Thanks to longevity research and like investing, there can be like a lot of improvements done, and the regulation is the biggest impediment to it. So like fighting regulation, probably actually fighting regulation is quite effective and cheap, because you just change the law from yes or something from yes to no, like a bit from yes to no, and it can unlock trillions of dollars. That's very effective. But the biggest problem, is I think it's this degradation of like biosphere, degradation of relationships. It's like excessive pollution and extraction, basically extracting something that you cannot recover unsustainably. And how you can do it, it's like the opposite thing. It's not sustainability, but like something like anti-fragility or regeneration. So basically you would use technology, exponential technology, to improve biosphere, basically to get carbon out of atmosphere, to plant as many trees as possible with drones. I think that's like something like tech progressivism, but used for the benefit not just of humanity but also of nature. I think that's important.
Okay, that's good. So can you talk a little bit more about the climate change? So in your opinion, between climate change and nuclear winter, do you think climate change is too neglected by effective altruism?
Okay, yeah, but as I discussed with this importance, it's like ITN, so it's like important, tractable meaning solvable, and neglected. So important, tractable, neglected. So if you have this framework, so they use it. It's just like something they produced. It's kind of, but it's very nice, very useful. And so climate change is not so neglected. Like everybody's talking about climate change and let's say gender equality. It's like everybody in media is like very popular, but actually it's not so solvable. Probably, I mean, it's not as easily solvable as some other interventions, at least according to them. Like I'm also explaining how the effective altruism kind of member, like the general kind of normie effective altruist things. So they think like too many people or many people are focused on climate change, so they want to be special, or they want to focus on something which is more neglected, just like and as I explained, maybe like using drones to plant trees, it's quite solvable. If you, I mean, I'm not sure how great the technology now is, but it's like exponential technology, like computer vision is getting better, AI is getting better, batteries are getting better, robotics are getting better. And probably, and you have robots and you know how many trees they can plant. And if you can do it like, it's kind of scalable, scalable, not as scalable as software, but it's robotics, but you can do it, and just like, and you can plant trees and kind of, that's one way, getting carbon out of atmosphere with like, as I explained, nuclear energy combined with like this technology to take, I mean, take CO2 and combine it with something to create starch, and then to feed people, to use it like, I mean, it sounds like sci-fi, but it's possible. All you need is cheap energy, and the energy is, it's good energy source, which is also neglected because it had a bad reputation for very long until actually this Russian invasion of Ukraine. The nuclear energy had a bad reputation, so it was very neglected. If not very neglected, then quite neglected. And you can just build nuclear reactors, some new generations, like some smaller reactors, modular reactors that run on recycled fuel or something. And you can use it to then, let's say, power some robotics or some kind of new technology that takes CO2 from atmosphere. And some other technologies, but I mean, you need energy for like almost everything. So people are really scared kind of energy. They think like energy is like zero sum, like you can't create new energy, but of course you can. You have sun, you have renewable energy, but you have also nuclear energy. I mean, it's very long until you run out of energy, and you can make energy cheaper. That's very important to alleviate people from poverty. So I think climate change is important, but it's important to understand that you can't make a trade-off between people and planet. You need to use the creativity of people and technology to actually not just protect the planet, but like to actively regenerate the planet using scalable technology like drones. So,
yeah. Okay, thank you very much for all this explanation and all that. It's always good to have conversation with you
okay,
every
sorry,
time.
speaking too much about effective altruism, but okay, the SBF stuff was good,
Yeah, actually, it was.
Yeah, maybe next time we should continue. We didn't get into many juicy parts of his life, or I mean, this FTX deal. But I think people can listen to it somewhere else as well. There will be lots of articles, and this is like the Enron of our generation. Or yeah, I mean, it's it's even bigger because there were no social media during Enron, and these guys were not like lobbying politicians or donate. He was like the second biggest donor to Joe Biden, and after George Soros. So I think many people betted on him to be the new Soros, you know, to give money to all these guys in the old establishment. So yeah, sad. I mean, they lost him. I don't know. We don't know. Probably he will go to jail as Madoff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's see what will happen next. Maybe we might talk more about it in our next episode. But
Yeah, we should. Or some other ideas connected to it. Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
yeah. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thanks for joining me and Jakub, and I hope the episode was beneficial to you. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, please subscribe. Give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week Monday for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.